Cashed in with 2 out of 3 complimentary plays in college last night as I scored with Minnesota over Penn State. Also nailed UCLA in a second-half blowout rout of Oregon. The lone loser being Oklahoma State. And if you saw that overtime loss to Kansas, you know what a heartbreaking one that was for the Cowboys. A number of free selections coming up here in just a moment. I'll get to them in a second. And listen, guys, before I go any further, I realize we're deep into March. We've got the big dance right around the corner. We've got all these big power conferences capping their college tournaments this weekend. But I want to talk about baseball for just a second. Listen, baseball, as I've told you many, many times, it is the easiest sport to make money in. No ifs, ands, or buts. I've won 13 of the last 16 seasons betting baseball, okay? 13 of the last 16. I've won a hell of a lot more than that long before I even got into this business. It's always been my favorite sport. But there are some things that make it a difficult sport to bet on. First of all, you got to have perseverance. You have to have endurance. You know how they talk about the dog's days of summer for baseball players? Well, the same thing goes for us diehard gamblers with baseball. Yes, it's the easiest thing to play and it's the easiest thing to win money on. But you've got to be dedicated because there's so many games day after day after day. And at the outset of the season, it's even tougher because you've got the college basketball campaign coming to a close, and then you have the NBA playoffs starting, and they go on forever into the middle to late of June, okay? So you've got to have your attention diverted to baseball as well. Now, for me, a guy that is an absolute diehard when it comes to betting baseball, it's no big deal. To me personally, now is the time you have to start looking at baseball. Listen, the first 3 weeks of spring training are absolutely worthless. Pitchers are ahead of hitters. Pitchers are going 1 or 2 or 3 innings. They're facing a lot of AA and AAA and free agent hitters that have no chance of being in the major leagues. Does not matter. From this point going forward, however, that's when you have to start, if you're like me, analyzing pitchers' results in spring training games when they're facing true major league hitters, when they're going at least 5 innings. These next few starts, which will be the last few starts, as spring training only has about 3 weeks to go, you're going to find pitchers facing top quality competition, and that's what gives you the edge at the beginning of the season. I've also always maintained that the first 3 weeks of any season, no matter the sport, it's when you truly have the advantage over the odds makers. You'll find the most beneficial prices in terms of the lines, and you know just as much as they do if you do your research. So you truly have the edge, and it only happens those first 3 weeks of the season. So again, keep that in mind. Baseball, I understand, again, it's a long grind, but trust me, guys, you can make money. I've won 13 of the last 16 seasons betting baseball. I've won a hell of a lot more than that because I bet baseball before I really got into betting basketball, before I really got into betting football. It's always been my favorite sport. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of money to be made here. Other guys that do exceptionally well in baseball, Chris Jordan, Scott Delaney, Brad Wilton had a very good season last year in baseball as well. Again, it's a money-making sport. But let's turn our attention back to basketball here today. Well, unfortunately, yesterday, Gabriel DuPont, who was going for 100 dime winner number, let me just double check, what was it? 100 dime winner number 8 out of 10. UNLV looked like the running Rebs with that 10-point lead with like 2 minutes to go against Wyoming. We're going to get the cover, and instead they coughed up almost all that lead and failed to get the cover against the Cowboys, and it cost him. And, of course, that was the half-price play of the day. So today we're going to have to fire his ass because the bottom line, he's only won 22 of the last 35 days, making $10 bettors a little over $3,200. But he's absolutely worthless because he lost the half-price play of the day. Unfortunately, happens. But that doesn't deter us. The half-price play of the day, I'm turning to Craig Davis today. Craig's biggest basketball release this entire season has been a 75 dime play. Just hit one, in fact, this past Saturday with Iowa State coming back from a double-digit deficit to stop Oklahoma State. Today, not only is he going for winning day number 19 out of 29, a stretch where he's made $10 bettors over $3,600 in a 4-week period, but today he has another one of those 75 dime releases, matching his biggest college play of the season. 75 dime winner number 4 out of 5. It's his Big 12 lock on Baylor and Texas. I think that's one of the most interesting games, actually, on today's board. It's a virtual pick'em, and for damn good reason. You can get it for half price simply by using the coupon code HALF, HALF. I just talked about Gabriel DuPont. We'll hold off on firing him for another day. Instead, we'll use him as one of the $5 play, or as the $5 play of the day released today. Mountain West total of the year, UNLV San Diego State. Boy, this guy's a glutton for punishment. He lost with the Running Rebels with the side last night. But then again, he loves the game. Hey, listen, you got his Pac-12 total of the year on Wednesday night. That's the $5 play of the day. Oregon State going over the total by 14 points. You can get today's Mountain West total of the year for $5 by using the coupon code DuPont, DUPONT 5, DuPont 5. Brad Wilton. If you've been a regular follower, you know he has just been money in the bank with those 60-dime total releases. Today, he's got another 60-dime play going. It's his ACC tournament total of the year. It goes at 2:30 Eastern Time. Your North Carolina, Pittsburgh over-under. You can save $80 as he goes for winning day number 8 out of 10 and 40 out of 64 overall, with $10 bettors up over $11,500 since July. You save $80 by getting the total using coupon code BRAD80. BRAD80. You may remember that he hit his Atlantic Division total of the year in the NBA just a couple of nights ago. I think it was Monday. Sixers and Knicks going over. You got that play for $9. Listen, 67 of the last 79 plays that he has had rated as a 60-dime release. You've gotten huge discount prices over the past, 8 months here? 67 of the last 79. Another one going tonight. Save $80 using coupon code BRAD80. Early bankroll builder for you. Chris Jordan, ACC Line Mistake Lock of the Year. North Carolina, Pittsburgh, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Tip-off in Greensboro, North Carolina. You get the play for just $29. Save $60 in the process by using coupon code. Are you ready? This is original. Early is the word. EARLY. Just hit a 500-star play last night on Texas in I think it was a 19-point blowout of West Virginia. A couple other handicappers of note. Jeff Brenton going for his 80-dime winner number 4 in a row. SEC Tournament Game of the Year. LSU and Kentucky hit an 80-dimer last night by Texas. On Texas, and FYI, I'm just looking at his website. Texas won by 17, not 18 points. Geez. Wow. He's on a 23-13 college basketball run, making $10 bettors $6,560 in that stretch. Was not aware of that. And Brian Rasica going for winner number 5 out of 7 overall. 50-dime double down play number 2 in a row. Last one was New Mexico against San Diego State in a road cover a week ago. This one goes on the nighttime card, and it matches that one in terms of intensity. Let's talk about the number of free selections I have going here for tonight. First of all, let's start with an obvious one. How can you not lay 19 points with Louisville tonight? I mean, why not? Okay, listen, they're not going to roll over Houston tonight like they rolled over Rutgers yesterday, 92-31, a game in which they forced 26 turnovers, which they converted into 44 points. Hell, they got another 30 points on fast break. They had 19 steals for a team that's averaging almost 11 steals a game. They even topped that total, nearly doubling it. Now, people say, well, yeah, but, can they possibly blow out another opponent in a second straight day? Well, why not, guys? I mean, they hammered Connecticut at home 81-48 in their regular season finale, and before that, they won at SMU 84-71 when the Mustangs were on a 7-1 roll. So they're playing good ball. Listen, against Houston this season, they won by 15 on February 15th on the road, and at home they won 92-52 on January 16th. Cougars, of course, yesterday, the big upset of SMU, but I don't really think that was such a big upset. I mean, okay, they were down by 10 early in the second half, but Larry Brown's team had its confidence shot after it lost at home to Louisville. And the Mustangs, great defensively, but forget about their offensive game, okay? And it hurt them yesterday, and that's why the Cougars were able to rally for that 68-64 win. But just remember, this is the same Houston Cougars team that lost its road finale during the regular season to Central Florida, for Christ's sake, 104-83, okay? I know they won 5 of the last 6 games, okay? But here's what I found really interesting in handicapping this particular contest. So Houston played 18 conference games. They're in the AAC, okay? 18 conference games. In 16 of them, they shot nearly 46% from the field. Pretty damn impressive, right? And averaged almost 72 points a game. But in the 2 games against Louisville this season, both losses I told you about earlier, right? They only shot 38% from the field, and they only averaged 57 points. They don't hold on to the ball that well. I happened in my research coming across a stat where in Division 1A rankings, they're 214th in terms of turnover percentage. They cough up the ball on nearly 19% of their possessions. What did Louisville do yesterday against Rutgers? Forced 26 turnovers, turned them into 44 points, came up with 19 steals. They average almost 11 steals on the season. That's why I think you got to go ahead and lay the points there with Louisville in that contest. Now, let's talk about a couple of other games here on the nighttime card. First one, I want to talk about the game between Georgia and Mississippi. Now, Mississippi yesterday came up with the 78-66 win against Miss State. Big deal. I mean, seriously, big deal. Like, I care about that particular game. You know, Georgia, Athens is like an hour and a half drive if you drive like I do. Well, if you drive like I do, it's probably like an hour and 10 minutes. To Atlanta, where the SEC tournament is being played. And listen, the Bulldogs have been playing well. They closed the season with a road win at LSU, 69-61. They had also beaten Mississippi State, the team that Ole Miss just beat yesterday in their home finale, beat them comfortably, 66-45, a 21-point blowout. They have won 5 of their last 6 games, 7 of their last 9 games. They counted among the wins a 61-60 win at home against these same Rebels back on February 15th. And it's a virtual pick'em game here tonight. So I'm going to go with Ole Miss with Georgia in this particular contest. Another game. I'm looking at VCU, and we know how VCU has played so well in the postseason here the past few years. But I don't see where VCU should be laying so many points against Richmond here today. Let me just double check here on our site. VCU's up to 8.5 points in that contest. And the reason I say that is, okay, I know that Richmond just snapped a 5-game losing streak with yesterday's 76-64 win against Duquesne. That's not the point of this game. Richmond and VCU, their campuses, minutes apart, okay? When these two played March 6th at Richmond, VCU was extremely fortunate to come up with the win, 56-50, in that contest. And I think tonight this is going to be another game that comes right down to the wire. I think VCU wins this, but by no more than 5 or 6 points. So I think that VCU is overpriced at 8.5 points, and that's why I say you have to go with the road dog in this particular contest. Just looking at some of the other games here on the board, I got to be honest with you, the nighttime tilt doesn't necessarily impress me. I had mentioned earlier, Craig Davis has that big play on the Texas Baylor contest tonight, his biggest play of the season. I looked at that game, and I think it's a very interesting contest because, Baylor yesterday blew the double-digit lead before holding on for the win. It's a virtual pick'em game here. Texas has size, okay? The Longhorns are big up front, but Baylor can match them in size, especially with Corey Jefferson and Isaiah Austin playing so well. Yes, Bears are playing their 3rd game in 3 days. And yes, Texas did beat West Virginia handily yesterday, but let's keep in mind that this is a Texas team that absolutely sucked playing outside of Austin this season. So in a virtual pick'em game, I got to go with Baylor. Baylor, very inconsistent team this year. Started fast, got into Big 12 play, really struggled, then closed the season on a flourish. I think they've won 5 of the last 6 games. I'm going to go with Baylor in that contest. And listen, I'm doing this report about 10 o'clock my time, 1 o'clock your time here in the afternoon. I just briefly want to touch on a couple of games on the afternoon card. So that's why I gave you all the nighttime games first. If you don't want to stick around, hey, I understand. Another fascinating game here today is Dayton and St. Joe's. It goes at 2:30 Eastern time in the Atlantic 10 tournament, okay? St. Joe's was rolling along. It looked like the Hawks had more or less wrapped up an invite to the big dance and a number 2 seed here in the A10 tournament. And then they blew a second-half lead at George Washington a week and a half ago and lost the game. And then they came home for their home finale against LaSalle, a LaSalle team that's just been horrific over the past 2 months. And the Explorers kicked their ass at St. Joe's home arena in Philadelphia on the main line at Hagan Arena. So suddenly you have a St. Joe's team that really has to win this game. But you have a Dayton team that's just playing great. Forget about yesterday's 87-74 win against Fordham. I mean, that game wasn't even as close as the final score indicated because Dayton was up by 22 points in that contest. What I find interesting is Dayton has won 10 of its last 11 games. So you always look, as I said earlier in this week, for the teams that are streaking coming into the tournaments. Here's the irony, double set of irony. Dayton has won 10 out of 11 since losing to St. Joseph's by 3 points at home. The one loss during that 10-1 run, they lost at St. Joseph's by 26 points. You know how difficult, right, it is for a team to beat another 3 times in a single season when the third game's in the conference tournament. Dayton is playing great ball. St. Joe's isn't. Yet, I look at this game. It's a virtual pick'em situation. And you say, on paper, St. Joe's has the size. It really has the ability to win this game. And remember, before losing its final 2 games of the regular season, St. Joe's had won 16 out of 19. This is one of those situations where I think, even though first inclination for me personally was to take Dayton, I think the way to go is with Phil Martelli's Hawks, and I go with St. Joe's to snap their 2-game skid to advance in the tournament as the number 4 seed and to hand Dayton a 3rd loss on the season. The other interesting game, I think, is North Carolina-Pittsburgh. I was surprised at the price in this contest with North Carolina just laying a couple of buckets here, a couple of points in this contest. But listen, Pittsburgh's coming off the 84-55 rout of Wake Forest yesterday. Big deal. I mean, the Panthers hammered them on the boards, and that's what they should have done. First meeting, only meeting this season between these two. Pittsburgh lost by 4 points in Chapel Hill back on February 14th. But what the Panthers did in that game against the ACC's number 1 rebounding team is they held their own on the boards. 40-40, the rebounding edge. And that one went to nobody. What hurt Pittsburgh in that contest, 14 turnovers. Only hit 4 out of 15 3-pointers. Now, North Carolina was rolling along, had won 12 straight games before Duke beat them in revenge, in Durham, in the regular season finale past weekend. I found it interesting that the Blue Devils, not a particularly big team, outworked the Tar Heels and won the battle of the boards 34-20. So what I'm telling you is if North Carolina doesn't attack the boards against a big physical Pittsburgh team, they are going to be in trouble today. My other problem I have with North Carolina, even though I like the Tar Heels in this contest, is Roy Williams' team. 3 straight years they've advanced to the ACC championship game. 3 straight years they've lost it. I just can't picture North Carolina not winning their tournament opener today. Just can't see this. Don't think they're going to win the tournament, but can't see them losing this game and going into the big dance off consecutive losses if they should lose today to Duke and then Pittsburgh. So I think at the cheap price, you go ahead and take North Carolina. I think it's a cheap price because what's last in everybody's mind is the fact that the Tar Heels lost to Duke and Pittsburgh manhandled Wake Forest. Who said Wake Forest was any good? Seriously. They deserved to lose yesterday by 29 points, and they did. So North Carolina is your selection there. So I gave you a ton of free selections. Hey, look, I had 3 best bets on today's card, okay? And these are all the other plays. My best bet is the Providence-Seton Hall game. Oh, my God. How about Seton Hall? I mean, Villanova, you're cruising in here. You have a potential number 1 seed in the Big Dance locked up. You're number 3 in the country, and you no-show for the first game of the Big East tournament. A Big East tournament that doesn't have Syracuse anymore, doesn't have Connecticut anymore, doesn't have Louisville anymore. A tournament that you could have ridden to the finals and taken on Creighton, and you lose the damn game by not showing up. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Shame, shame, shame. Anyway, that'll do it, guys. Best of luck to y'all, and I will catch you again on Saturday morning when we re-rack and do this one more time.